As you may have heard over the weekend, the government is coming under pressure to quickly pay compensation to victims of the infected blood scandal. The head of the inquiry made a recommendation that those affected should receive at least £100,000 each as an interim payment. Michelle Tolley, who lives near Dereham, was given contaminated blood transfusions after giving birth over 30 years ago. She's been one of the lead campaigners in the scandal, and over the weekend gave me her reaction to this latest development in the story.
It's an interim payment. It's not full compensation. It's just an interim payment. You know, there's many thousands of people out there when they need to make their memories for their families. This doesn't include those families that lost children or for the children that lost their families, you know, and these people need to be included. Plus there's people who were infected post-1991 and they need to be included also.
So it's not the end of the story as far as you're concerned. I suppose really it couldn't possibly be the end of the story.
It will never be the end, personally, because of what happened to us and the 4 decades that it's gone over. It should never have taken this long to come through. I have to say that Sir Brian Langstaff and his inquiry team have been amazing, wonderful, fantastic. You know, we've still got more evidence coming up in September. I think it's now also running into January. So, you know, Michael Ellis, the Paymaster General, and the government team that deal with the finances need to get this payment done and sorted. You know, people are dying 1 every 4 days. I don't know if I'll be alive at the end of the inquiry. None of us know. It's the worst. It's the worst tragedy in the history of the NHS, and also there's still people out there infected with hepatitis C and potentially hepatitis B that have not been found yet. So the Hepatitis C Trust, it would be the place to go, and also the Infected Blood Inquiry are still trying to find these people. So, you know, to get that message out there to try and save some additional lives. They can be cured. There is easy treatments available now, and yeah, I would really urge people to come forward if they've had a blood transfusion pre-1992.
Michelle, I know you've explained it to us many, many times, but for anybody who doesn't know your story, if you take us right back to the beginning, what happened those decades ago to you?
Okay, so in September 1987, our first son was born, Daniel, and I had a postpartum hemorrhage, needed 4 units of blood, and in that blood was hepatitis C. And I had that for 28 years before I knew. I did actually visit a GP in Essex at the time, because I think it was when the Tombstone adverts were come on about AIDS. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, they were quite impactful, weren't they?
They was very, very impactful. And there was a telephone number to ring, because obviously I'd had the blood transfusions before the dates that they were screened from. And I went along to my local GP and explained how, you know, fatigued I was, and that I'd had 2 blood transfusions by that time. And he basically said to me, well, don't be silly. Of course you're tired. You've got 4 young children, and almost shooed me out with his hand saying, don't be silly, you won't have that. Didn't test me. And, of course, I did have that, and has left me with cirrhosis of the liver. I've now got a kidney disease, apart from many other health issues. So, yeah, it's really vitally important for people to get tested. It was a big shock for me. I didn't find out until the end of 2015 by my local GP practicing at North Elmham. The surgery have been fantastic, looked after me well, as have the team at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital. But the shock, the anger of knowing that these pathogens were in this blood for all those years, the amount of deaths, people that have died. You know, I've said this time and time again, you know, they gave us the death sentence and we didn't commit a crime. You know, and there's families who've lost children with full-blown AIDS, some as young as 7. It's just a massive tragedy. It should never have happened, and it should never happen again, ever.
It's said that this £100,000 is to compensate, I suppose, for want of a better word, for the profound physical and mental suffering that people like yourself have been through.
Yes.
Does that add up in your mind? I don't suppose really any amount of money can compensate through what you've been through, and still having to go through.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I was infected at the age of 22. I know that it was going to take time off the end part of my life, and then in between all of those years, of course, the infection does nard. This virus is a horrible virus. They call it the silent killer because it can be in your system for over 20 years without really showing any symptoms, but it's working away. It sort of basically attacks your liver and other parts of your body. But no, it's something I'll never forget. That's for sure. I mean, I'm certainly glad that I found I had a voice to kind of campaign and advocate to let people know, well, if this happened to me, could it have happened to you? So it's what the government need to do is they need to implement that now. We're not donkeys. We're not following carrots. Some of these people won't even make through August, and the families need to make their memories with their families. Some people are in rented accommodation. They've got no security. They can't borrow their own home. Some people have trouble getting travel insurance. What goes on with a person that's been infected or affected, it is unless you've been through it, you could never imagine how awful it is.
A lot of people will think £100,000 is a lot of money, but having just heard what you've just said, in some cases it'll make a bit of a difference, but it might not go that far when you think about it, particularly when you mention people in rented accommodation.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we know the property prices, even living in Norfolk, are high, and it depends where you are in the country. Properties are just, it's a ridiculous amount of money, but we need that security. It wasn't our fault, but the fact of the matter is it wasn't our fault, and we need that support, that comfort for the rest of our lives. It's like waiting. For me, the quick example, I was due to be seen by a nephrologist, which is to do with your kidneys. And when I phoned up to ask how long, it was like 20 weeks. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I've already got cirrhosis of the liver. I've now got kidney disease. I mean, I managed to push it forward and get a more urgent appointment. But this just goes to show... Well, I think this is for everybody, isn't it? It's not just for us. I think that shouting out hopefully will help other people get seen quicker within the NHS. The government need to invest money back into their NHS. They've got to stop taking and start giving.
Thinking of you personally now, the money, will it make a bit of a difference? Will it provide a bit of security for as long as it lasts?
Yes, of course it will. And it will help go towards things. But it won't give me back those missing years or that extended part of my life. That no amount of money can do that. No amount of money can do that. Well, the 100,000, like you say, does sound like a lot of money, but in today's day and age, trust me, it isn't. Where people are having to wait, say, for scans or etc., that will give us the opportunity to go private and to get things done, that we need, where we're having to wait. We'll have that opportunity to pay out should we want to. And 100,000 is nothing. You wouldn't be able to buy a small property, some security, and to leave for your family that have actually had to live with you with that all those years. The affected people in this, like my husband, my children, friends, neighbours, work colleagues, that's how far it reaches out to. But 100,000 isn't enough, and I know I will get slammed for saying that. But actually, life is priceless. So, we could be waiting for the end result of that's if the government agree, of course, to pay compensation. They don't have to. We were looking at maybe 2025. So, that payment is needed now. And there's the beneficiaries. So, basically, we get a support payment from the government. So we're already set up. They already know all our details. It's just a case of pressing the button. Like I say, some won't even see September. So this is why it's so urgent. I've been to too many funerals now. And, you know, my friend and I, Steve, who've spoken on the radio before, we got in the car from Mike Collier's funeral, and Steve looked at me and said, well, which one of us is it going to be next, girl? And that's an awful way to look at things, isn't it? At the end, if they paid a full compensation and not keep talking of ex gratia payments, or because to pay compensation is because they need to accept liability. I want them to accept liability.
That's the remarkable Michelle Tolley, who lives near Dereham. She was given contaminated blood transfusions after giving birth in 1987. She's been one of the lead campaigners in the scandal for compensation, and thanks to Michelle for talking to me over the weekend with her reaction to the news that the government is coming under pressure to quickly pay compensation to victims of the scandal. In the first instance, at least £100,000 each as an interim payment is being talked about.